Tech Addicts 2025, Episode 13, The Brains on Barbie. This week, self-driving Uber taxis to pop up in London. Foldables aren't doing as well as they should be. Would you buy a Barbie with AI installed? There's a Chromebook Showcase around the corner, and a bit of a rant about YouTube and Google in general. Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts podcast. I'm Gareth, your host. And this is Ted Salmon, your other host. How are yous?
Oh, I'm too hot. I'm too hot. It started. I think this is the beginning of the summer, really, because it's really very hot here today, and I'm sweltering, and there are people everywhere going to the beach. This is it. It's ice cream season.
Yeah, you get to dodge the raindrops on your way down to the ice cream van to buy an overcharged Mr. Whippy or what have you. Are you included in this yellow or even amber alert for thunderstorms across the UK?
I think that the whatever it was here the day before yesterday and overnight into yesterday morning, and there was an awful lot of rain and there was some thunder, but not a huge amount. So that I think that's come and gone now. The forecast here at the moment looks like it's no rain for about 2 weeks now. What about there? It's been raining all day yesterday. There were floods and things like that. I went to a vintage car show up at Stormont, which is like our Parliament buildings here in Northern Ireland, and there was a distinct lack of vintage cars, possibly because they failed to start due to the weather. Otherwise, people didn't want them to get wet. They could have been open top, or they just got hacked off and went home, leaving there was about 15 cars there. It was slightly disappointing, but there was a Citroen SM, which I was really enamoured to see, and my favourite car in the whole world, the Alfa Romeo GTV 1300, not the 2000, was sitting there. There was a wee white one, and it was gorgeous. Oh, good.
Yeah, I told my son that I'm going to retire to rural France one day and drive one of those around with the walnut steering wheel and all that kind of stuff. And he went, okay, all right. And I took lots of pictures of my son, whose first name is Austin, beside Austin's. There was an Austin A35 and an Austin Healey, and then a really old Austin that I don't know what it was. Yeah. Really old.
Nice. Yeah. I used to love Austin cars too.
You had an Allegro, that's right, didn't you, with a square steering wheel?
I did, yeah. An automatic one as well, which was really, really rare. Allegros with a square steering wheel were rare enough, but one that was automatic was even rarer.
Yeah. But I suppose it was nice to get away from one of the worst weeks that we've seen in the news. Obviously, Ted, you don't read the news or look at the news, but
not much. But I'm aware of big stories that come and go. So yeah.
Unfortunately, my little country was in the news a great deal. Not that I'm going to comment on it in any way, because it's an atrocity, it's an abomination, and it's very embarrassing. Other than that, we can move on. Yeah, so there was a little bit of news, and we're going to cover that in the show today. And we could actually start off with a bit of a controversial one that's about Mattel's partnership with OpenAI to create AI-powered toys. Ted, do you have a Barbie in mind that you would quite like to have AI built into?
The interesting bit about here, just for a brief discussion point, I suppose, is whether, as a parent, if one is a parent, which you are, you would be okay with your offspring's toys being AI ready. And, for the example being used in this article at Tech Radar is a Barbie doll, because I guess they're American. And they're talking about the doll, which up to now has been fairly dumb and relying on the child's creativity to learn from. Well, inside it now, there could be this kind of conversationless Barbie who could explain space missions or play pretend in a dozen different roles, says the article. Or a Hot Wheels car commenting on the track you built for it, and so on. Toys and AI. That's the big question here, and if that's a thing. I can remember my sister having a doll which had a pull-out cord on the back, and when you pulled it out, it said some kind of stuff, and we were fascinated by that. Even me as a male person, I used to just keep listening to it all the time. So this is like 100 steps forward beyond that. And do we want our kids? Do you want your kids? You're the parent here. Do you want your kids exposed to AI in their toys?
Well, I think the first thing that you got to extrapolate from this is that it's going to be a toy that is connected to the internet. In order for it to be able to look up things and keep up to date and stuff. Otherwise, what point is AI, an AI model built into something if it can't actually reach out and give you up-to-date information? So that's one worrying thing. And then is this a way to, well, obviously tap into what your child is doing from the larger companies? Already I've got my concerns about Chromebooks being in the classroom, because that kind of gets kids on board with the whole Google setup, and I think that's why they're interested in doing this, because the kids will grow up going, oh, need to have Google, and everything will be, their drive will be full of all their stuff from school, and their Google Photos will have pictures that they've taken with their phones and larked about with and things like that. So it's going to be a hard thing for them to shake off, to be able to move over to Apple or any competitor in later years. It's the same with these. Are you going to get a knockoff Barbie? Well, wasn't that called Cindy? Is Cindy going to come with DeepSeek on board it?
Cindy. My sister's doll was called Wendy. It was a Wendy doll, but that was in the 1960s. But this is a deal that apparently, as you said, I think, between ChatGPT and Mattel. So they're obviously going to want to have it connected, aren't they? And, if it's not in the house and connected to your Wi-Fi router or whatever, then the next stage, I guess, will be putting a SIM card in it and having it on contract. So your Barbie doll or your Wendy doll or whatever it is, or your Hot Wheels cars are going to actually be on contract.
Yeah, true, yeah. And then at some point they can just turn it off. And the child will no longer have that AI side of things, and they'll have to go back to, God forbid, using their imagination. We don't want that now. Whew. Well,
indeed,
it's a worrying thing, but at the same time, I could think it would be kind of cool if you were playing with Transformers. You could have an Optimus Prime talking to you as Optimus Prime and actually have a conversation with Optimus Prime.
Mm-hmm.
And there could be ways of policing child abuse and things like that, where a child maybe admits to a doll or a teddy or something like that something is happening behind closed doors that maybe a teacher hasn't been able to spot, and law enforcement could spot.
Or telling it a pack of lies.
Or being hacked and someone suggesting that, and then before you know it, innocent parents are being whisked away to Guantanamo Bay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, it's probably best just to leave it the way it is and let them be dumb bits of plastic that end up in landfill. You don't have to.
I reckon you're right.
Responsibly recycle our Barbie.
But everything is going to be AI centric going forward. This is an interesting one. I'd not thought before about toys, but there's going to be, everything in the world is going to be connected in some way, shape or form, unless governments get together and stop that happening. And obviously whatever is selling will be the thing that drives the agenda. and no doubt kids will want their toys to talk to them and to have a conversation with them and to be able to ask their Wendy doll, or what's it called, Barbie
Cindy.
doll, yeah, Cindy doll. They want to actually have that conversation. And I was doing this conversation thing with my dad, and he was just gobsmacked. He said, "How on earth are they doing that? That's a real person. Surely it's a person."
Yeah.
And
With ooming
it's
and
so well
and,
done.
and taking a breath and
Yeah.
stuff like that
Yeah.
makes it more natural. But then I suppose the other side of the argument would be that it's already there. Where a child is using a Nintendo or a PlayStation or Xbox or something like that, there's microphones all over that, and they're recording the kids' play habits and stuff like that. So why wouldn't it be in a G.I. Joe whenever it's already in the PlayStation? When I was growing up, we were able to play with Game Boys that weren't connected. Ted was able to play with a stick in a tire running down a cobbled street, and they weren't connected, so no one had any idea of what was going on in our playtime. And this way, a company like Mattel would say, well, Nintendo's able to garner that information, why can't we?
Yeah, interesting world.
It is, absolutely. So much so that in the news this week, Uber has announced plans to trial self-driving taxis in London next spring, in partnership
What could go
with
wrong?
Wave. Wave. Yeah, it's Wave, but Wayve, just to really mess with your spelling. This is the first time in Europe a fully autonomous vehicle has been used without a human safety driver on board, and the government has brought forward the trials of fully autonomous vehicles to spring of 2026, where the goal is to create a $42 billion industry and 38,000 jobs by 2035. The trials are expected to improve transport for millions and people, and add new public transport options to rural areas. And that's a good thing. But I dare say it's obviously going to put up the price of your Uber journey. What do you think, Ted? Have you ever taken an Uber?
No, never. And I'm completely fascinated by the prospect of going and getting in a vehicle that there's no one else in and just telling it to take me somewhere. I'd love to just try it once. And I think that I would have probably confidence in it working fine, and thinking to myself that if it didn't work fine, then they wouldn't be allowed to do it, sort of thing. But then I'm probably naive. When I posted this in the group, someone did say that they just cycled home from central London, and they said there's no way that this could possibly work. There's too many variables on the road, including him on his push bike, which are completely... And if it did work, everything would be driving around at 15 miles an hour to make sure that nothing was going wrong. I think that the way that it might work is that if these were all there were on the roads. So if you cordoned off central London and said, right, no one's allowed to bring their car in, it's all going to be done by automated transport, then I guess that would stand some chance. But they're obviously, taking it seriously, aren't they?
They are, yeah. And it's one of those things that actually it scares me from the point of view of having an accident. And I know there's a few like horror stories of where someone's maybe crashed into a bus, or a bus has crashed into them, and that's one of the worst accidents you can have, because you have to go up against the corporation that runs the bus, and it can take forever, and they can try to destroy you financially by rolling it on and on. You've got to have resources and time to be able to take on the larger corporation. So if you were to get into an accident with one of these very pricey machines, whether it's your fault or not, it could be the end of you financially, because having to take Uber to court or them take you to court could be incredibly tricky. Where you might bump into a taxi driver down the town and cause him a little bit of accident. The two of you could sort it out there and then and have a chat about, I'll pay for you to get a new bumper, and the taxi driver will go, brilliant, that means we don't have to do any claims or anything like that, and away you go and fix it up that way. The two of you can work it out together. But that's not going to work this way, and it's going to be harder and harder for you to be able to take a self-driving car to court and be able to prove that they were in the wrong, because there's got to be all kinds of records and analysis that Uber will do to prove that they weren't in the wrong, because these things have to succeed. And the first setback that's going to happen is going to, or if people start making claims against them where something did go wrong, they have to ensure that they win, to ensure that their R&D that they're putting into creating these things on the road is worthwhile. If this moves down a child accidentally, or a nun or something like that, then that's the end of
a nun.
That's the end of the whole $46 billion industry.
What vulnerable person can I think of? I know, a nun.
Well, that'd be terrible, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah, and I'm sure that that's happening already in America, where this stuff has been rolled out already, and there's court cases going on all the time. I'm sure that's what will happen.
Well, you go onto TikTok and you go onto YouTube Live or YouTube Shorts and stuff like that, and you see these videos of people inside a self-driving car where it's stuck in a circle or something, turning and turning and turning. I can think of one that went viral where the person couldn't get out, and they were just filming it, and the voice was saying, unfortunately, there's been an error, and it's the steering wheel's locked entirely to the left, and it's just doing donuts, and they can't get out, and they have to wait for the battery to die.
Yeah.
Which can take hours.
Yeah. Yeah, all good fun.
Anyway,
I quite like to try it.
Well, yes. I'm being a pessimist about the whole thing. I've seen Minority Report, and I love the idea of that, and just being able to get into a car that's passing your house and to let it do all the driving to work.
To be fair, I mean, you get onto an aircraft, and for 95% of the time, there's a robot flying that aircraft, and you never see the driver. Or the pilot in that case, we do kind of trust that systems work, I think, to a large degree.
Aye, but there still is a pilot there in the event that the autopilot was to fail, and the pilot does have the requisite knowledge to be able to land the plane in the event that something goes wrong. And then
but you don't know that. They might not be there. No, they might not be there. They might be. This might be a big conspiracy. It's a con. It's all robots. You never see the pilot. You're not allowed in there.
Right. I've seen enough movies to know that there's got to be someone amongst the crew or the passengers who can fly it, like Ted Stryker, and he can.
Oh yeah,
he can take over. And the autopilot is inflatable.
Oh yeah.
All right, JBL. JBL's got a new Dolby Atmos soundbar range. There's a new soundbar called the MK2 series, which features 5 models, including the flagship, which is the JBL Bar 1300 MK2, a bit like the Alfa Romeo 1300 that I mentioned earlier, the GTV. The soundbars they offer various features, including Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, AirPlay 2, Google Cast. Google Cast, and support for streaming services like Spotify and Tidal. The flagship bar has support for the likes of Dolby Atmos, as well as other models, and supports virtual Dolby Atmos as well. The range is due to launch. Where was it? June 25, which is this month, and. The 1300 MK2 is going to be coming later this year. Sorry, that's the 1000 MK2 is coming this month, and then the 1300 later this month. So you could buy the budget one now, or the cheaper one now, and then get the more expensive one later on. Ted, are there any of those specs that dazzled you whenever you saw it? Because there's a nice little table here that I don't really feel like reading all of the specs out about, but there's there's numbers.
No, the thing that jumped out at me really is the list of stuff that you went through just now. Really, is that these devices are all getting really connected with all sorts of different things, like as you say, Google Cast, Spotify, Tidal, Rune, whatever that is, Amazon Music HD, Samsung Smart Things, and AirPlay, and blah blah blah. And everything that's being produced now seems to be just like hooked into everything. Unlike my Marshall speakers, which the only thing that it hooks into, it seems, is Spotify. If you don't use Spotify, then tough titty. The same was true about my Roberts radio. If you don't have Spotify with your Roberts radio, it doesn't plug into any other services. So your internet radio is fine, but if you want to do a direct, job on one of those, it doesn't really have that happening. Anyway, so that's what my takeaway from this was. These soundbars are, I think, probably more of interest to you than me, but it just seemed to me that what was changing here was that these devices are just doing deals with all the companies and getting hooked into everything. No longer just Dolby Atmos, but just everything else as well.
The one thing I really don't understand is why people need all of these to be hooked in to it. As long as you've got essentially a casting facility, you can cast whatever you like to it. Having something like Spotify or Tidal built into it, yeah, it's great and all while it lasts. It reminds me of smart TVs. And how many smart TVs do you know out there that have an outdated version of Netflix, or it says Amazon Video or something instead of Amazon Prime, or whatever the previous Amazons have been, that they just didn't update that client for because they've dropped support for it essentially. But people keep their TVs and soundbars for years. I've got a soundbar attached to my TV that I have had for about 15 years. I love it to bits. It does have Bluetooth on it, but I've never used it. I'll just you get your set-top box, whether it be Android TV or a Shield or Apple TV or something like that, and plug it in, and you use that to power the speaker for whatever you want to use the speaker for. Having it built into the speaker actually becomes a crutch in years to come, where you're forced to have to pay. Was it the 1300 MK2 is due to come out at £1,299.99. You'll have to pay that again if they ever decide, nah, we're not going to do Spotify or Tidal anymore. That's my pessimistic view again.
Yeah. Or you then start using it as a dumb bar instead, and just like you said, send stuff to it using other tools. They're trying to make everything smart, aren't they? So as you said earlier, the soundbar probably doesn't need to be smart, but they're making it smart anyway. The same is true of my Marshall speaker. I can send anything I want to it by whatever means. But they're trying to build it in. The same as my Roberts radio, which I just complained about. On reflection, I can send what I like to it because it's a dumb terminal. It's a speaker.
Yeah.
And this is what these are as well. And yeah, everyone's going to have a smart TV, aren't they?
Well, there's got to be a very small percentage of people who have ever looked at their soundbar going, "Ooh, I wish I could play something on that without having to turn the TV on." Have you ever looked at your Roku soundbar and thought, I'd like some tunes to come. I'd like to listen to an audiobook on that later on today?
No.
Well,
never.
So I don't see the point.
No. I agree.
Yeah. Another nice little thing that might not be the most sought after device is the one-handed keyboard. We've seen a few of these over the last number of years. This is a computer accessory designed for accessibility. It's developed by HDX Studio, and this keyboard combines like a QWERTY keyboard layout with a trackball and mouse buttons, and allows users to write and browse and click with one hand. The design is fairly compact, it's flexible, and adaptable to different needs with a focus on ergonomics and comfort. The keyboard is open source, inviting the community to build, modify, and share improvements on it. It's a very noticeably special shape, I suppose. It's got to be to combine all of that together, and it's coloured as if to say it's Tommy's My First Keyboard. Ted, are you going to have one of these?
No, I don't think it's designed for me. I think it's, as you say, it's for accessibility and people that maybe only have one hand. But I was just trying to find out to see if there was a right-handed version. No, yeah, a right-handed version of it, or is it assumed that everyone is left-handed?
Oh, they can't do that.
Because all the pictures here are demonstrating it with the space bar on the right hand side, so which is fair enough. Oh no, sorry, right down the bottom there is a picture of one the other way around.
Is, yeah.
Okay, so they are, yeah. So yeah, the space bar goes under your thumb. I mean, if I only had one hand, I think you get used to, you'd have to get used to stuff. And actually, it's designed like a fan, and so I think it's really well designed, and I think that if I only had one hand, I could get used to using that, and it would work really well personally. But I don't have one hand, so I don't need to.
You do have one hand, and that could be the thing. Is you're going to see if these were to become anyway successful, you maybe see some darkened basement somewhere with a dude with a couple of Linux terminals in front of him, and one of these under each hand, operating two computers at the same time, getting twice as much done. Yeah, that would be cool.
You wouldn't want to have arthritis in the mix as well, would you? Blimey.
Oh no.
Your fingers would be moving so rapidly if you were good at it.
Does that trackball look comfortable to you?
Presumably, you would use that under your thumb as well. All of the space bar and those controls are all designed for use with the thumb, including that what looks like an ever scrolling wheel.
Yeah.
What are they called? I can't remember what they're called. Inertia wheel, isn't it?
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
all of those controls there look okay to me. That little X-pad thingy presumably is for gaming, is it?
Possibly, or just for moving around on the screen. Where it is useful to have cursors to be able to move up and down text without having to replan. Use your mouse to do it.
It's just the way that they've designed it makes it look a bit like a Nintendo.
Yeah, well, probably throw that in the mix as well. It'll be useful for that too. So you can draft documents with your left hand and then game with your right hand.
If you've got two hands.
Yeah, which most people do.
Indeed. I think it's nice anyway.
Okay, well, we'll move into some bad news. Bad news. The foldable smartphone market in Europe saw it saw a 4% growth in Q1 of 2025, with foldables accounting for 1.5% of total smartphone sales. Samsung maintained its lead with 41% of market share, but lost 15% of market share compared to last year. Motorola overtook Honor as the second leading player, with a 15% market share, driven by the success of, the Razr 50, wasn't it? That was their big one?
Yeah, Razr 50.
Other notable players were Google, Tecno, and Xiaomi, with Tecno experiencing the largest growth in the market, which is applaudable, if anything. So essentially the long and the short of it is that foldables are down, and Samsung are noticing the biggest shrinkages. Ted, what do you think of these shrinkages? Do you suffer from shrinkage yourself?
After a few pints. 1.5% is the takeaway figure here, because we've always understood that 2% was the figure overall that foldables had in the overall market. Now, these stats are largely about Europe by the looks of it, but whether or not that's a reflection of the whole world, I don't know. It's not very clear about that. But 1.5% of total sales in Europe, anyway, according to Counterpoint. are down pretty much from 2% to 1%. It's interesting to see Moto going up though. They just seem to be getting in everywhere, and the only ones that are being serious really about the Smart Connect stuff. Although Samsung are now, it looks like Samsung are, with the decks, are kind of further developing that with Google, and there might be something coming out of that. But so we'll see what happens with that. But Motorola are doing well there. But no one's doing well really, and it's really surprising. I think the flip phone, you mentioned the Razr 50 there, and I think that's where it's at. I think that's if you take the overall figures, the flip phones are the ones that are selling still, and it's surprising that they carry on with these bigger folders, frankly, when they're not 1.5% of total sales. They should all ditch them and do flip phones instead, I reckon.
Yeah, and you do see quite a few flip phones out in the wild, and especially these Razr 50s. I do know a couple of people who have them now, but it's still only a couple. It's a lot more people have. Yeah. Actually, a lot more people have kind of middle of the range Samsungs. You're not seeing as many Ultras and things like that. And they're the F series or the S24s and things like that seem to be doing the rounds a great deal more. I've moved offices recently, and I'm sort of checking out what people are using, and there's not as many iPhones, and there's not as many Ultras and high end premium phones. So people are looking to tighten their belts, and flip phones and foldables are expensive, so they've moved on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interesting to see what happens in the next 12 months, because I just think they need to drop the price, and then people will adopt them more.
Yeah, which is what Motorola are doing. They're coming down, and it's what some of the Chinese brands are doing as well. I think they've recognised that they've got to get, if they're going to make a go of it, they've got to get them out there at better prices. And the ones that are better prices are the flip phones, not the bigger folders.
Yeah, but they'll probably try and keep the same profit margins, which means they'll downsize the specs considerably and try to get people to change them every year. Being a pessimist that I am. All right, moving on. It's what, June the 15th that we're recording this, and it looks like we're going to be getting the Chromebook Showcase that's going to take place on Tuesday, June the 17th. The event is expected to introduce the Navi Chromebook, N-A-V-I, that is, which is a powerful device that features the MediaTek's newest Kompanio Ultra processor. It should have a 4K OLED screen and a 16-inch 16 by 10 chassis. This marks a significant move toward the higher quality ARM silicone and potentially closer integration between Chrome OS and Android. The event will be under embargo until then, but the website promises comprehensive coverage, and this is Chrome Unboxed. Robbie's promising comprehensive coverage once the details have been shared.
Presumably it's usually 6 p.m. for us on these days when they roll it out. So I should be tuned in on Tuesday. One reason being for the next story related to this, which Robbie has also put out there about the Hylia. And I reckon he was listening to last week's show, because I was whinging about the Chromebooks, Chromebook Plus units not being available in tablet style 2-to-1 thingies, and here it is. It's turned up. It's called the Hylia, and wise money seems to be on exactly what I was asking for, which is a Chromebook Plus with decent specifications, which is a tablet with a removable keyboard. As if by magic, it's arrived. So hopefully at the event this will also be talked about as well, and it will be the Navi and the Hylia. The Navi seems to be a more traditional keyboarded laptop, but the Hylia is the tablet one, and I think that's going to be the exciting news on Tuesday.
Well, yeah, and he's hopefully expecting it to be a 13 to 14 inch screen on that, which means it'll be a nice little device that's not going to be too cumbersome. So yeah,
Indeed.
that does sound really exciting.
I'm all over that. I've got my wallet out.
Great. All right. Well, one thing you won't be able to do in it is well, no, actually, that's not the right way to look at this. It's more about to do with an extension that gets rid of AI.
Oh yeah, the AI overviews,
and thus speeding up Chrome, which would be nice.
We were talking about this before the show, and I reckon that Google have taken away my access to those AI overviews anyway.
Mine
so when
too.
I do a Google search, yours too, yeah. When I do a Google search, until like now, it gave me a summary ahead of all the search results. Anyway, somebody in the mix has written this little Chrome extension called Bye Bye Google AI. Bye Bye Google AI. Made it available free to install, which I did. And sure enough, it took away the AI overviews. But the net result of that was that they never came back. I uninstalled the extension, expecting AI overviews to come back, and they didn't. So whether it was a huge coincidence that right at that moment they were turned off, I don't know. But yeah, if you still get AI overviews and you don't want them, you can install this little extension which some bright spark has put together.
But then, does that affect the Google Gemini app, or do you think that's what they're pushing you toward, as using the dedicated app?
No, it's just those. Well, this particular extension is just about AI summaries in your search results. So if you go to Google's homepage and type in Great Yarmouth, for example, then up until, you see what's happening now is I'm not getting an AI overview at all. Whereas what happened previous to this change is that at the top, ahead of the search results, you would get an AI overview. I don't know how else to describe it. It would be Google going about its business, doing what it does.
So I really do think the one company that's going to win in this AI, well, there's a bit of a war going on, I suppose, with these expensive AI models that they're trying to get people to subscribe to. But lately, in work, I have Outlook and I have Teams, and both of them have Copilot right there embedded into it. And it's handy just to use, and it's not complicated, it's not difficult. Whereas when you look at Google, I'm not entirely sure where I should go in order to get Gemini. I know there's a Gemini button there, but it's asking me to subscribe right from the start. But if I want to just, spell check a sentence, as I did the other day, I'm looking to do a couple of paragraphs and get AI to tighten them up a wee bit, make a few suggestions. I couldn't work out exactly how to do that. I was in Google Docs, I hit the Gemini button, and it said, subscribe here. Oh, right, okay, so I have to give...
You can do it by going to Gemini AI. So if but you'd have to copy and paste it into there to get it to do it. It's not going to do it on the fly.
Gemini AI, the app?
Yeah.
Which isn't available for Linux, so I can't do that.
No. Oh, right, okay, all right. Well, for the rest of the world, Gemini AI is also a web service, so you go and grab whatever you want it to do. But I do agree with you. Prior to these changes, it was much easier. And you're right; they're trying to get people to subscribe to get them back.
Oh, I suppose you can go to gemini.google.com, which is an extra step. So if I'm sitting in work at Outlook and I want to draft a reply to someone and I want to just tighten it up, then I have to cut and paste that into Edge on this website in order to get it to do it.
You do, and if you pay them £18.99 a month, that you won't have to.
And you can put that into Outlook.
No, I don't know anything about Outlook.
yeah. I'm not sure that you can. You have to. There are special apps that you can or extensions that you can put into Outlook and Teams, but I don't know if you can add Gemini. mean, I'll check that in the morning.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do reckon, most desktop environments are going to have probably Microsoft Office. Therefore, Copilot is going to be the biggest name in AI. I can't imagine anything else coming close to it. Obviously, ChatGPT has the best reputation, and the hardcore tend to be using it. But for the average user, for the average office, Copilot's going to be the one. Microsoft have it licked.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
I'm trying to find out. I'm trying to find the. Oh, here it is. Take action. The email they sent me was on the 19th of May, and that was the email that I had to click on and agree to get all that AI stuff working inside Drive and Gmail and all the rest of it. And I did, and that's what's just gone away now. So presumably that the trial, inverted commas, that had no end date for me, because I didn't sign up to anything.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was here, have this free for 3 months, but after that you've got to pay $18.99 a month. It wasn't that. It was just like, we're going to give this to you to try out, but at some point it will go away, and I think it's now gone away.
Yeah. I haven't used my free trial yet because I found that I've used free trials on things and then gone back to try and use the free trial a couple of years later whenever something is more necessary to me, and then gone, I can't use the free trial. I'd have to subscribe in order to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm saving my free trial for the days that I genuinely need it.
Okay, then.
So there you go. We can move into a wee bit of banter. And I've got a little bit of a chinwag to go with, because there's been a lot to do with Google and YouTube recently. And there's a couple of topics that I'm kind of combining together into what the hell's going on over there. I think we need to be policing this a bit more. The first thing is that I've noticed that a lot of people have been giving off about the amount of unskippable ads that they're seeing on YouTube, especially whenever you come to the Roku app. And if you don't have a subscription, one person has announced that they're seeing 60 to 75 seconds of ad breaks every 5 minutes or so, and only a few of them are skippable on the Roku YouTube app. Have you noticed this at all, Ted? Or I suppose you pay for YouTube Prime?
Yeah, I subscribe. Yeah, so I never see any of this, thankfully, and I think for my £12 a month, for me personally, I use it so much, and I use YouTube Music all the time. I think it's decent value for me, but my dad doesn't pay, and I think I've said before, I've been round there, and he's put YouTube on for some reason, and straight away, bloody adverts. I said to him, how can you stand this? And he said, well, it's the way of the world. You've got to get used to it. But 75-second adverts every 5 minutes. Wow.
Yeah. I think I was talking about it last week, or maybe one of the previous weeks. I was doing a training course in work, and there was 35 videos that I had to watch. They were all between 2 and 3 minutes each, and in between every other one, there was an unskippable ad for about 30 seconds that I had to sit through, and it was the same bloody ads over and over again. And, by the end of that, it was like, what the hell's the point in this? Why are they just torturing me with the same fucking ad over and over again? I could understand if they were using a different advertiser, but no, I've seen this ad countless times. Do you not track it? If you can't give me different ads, then why do you have to push the same ad at me? And even the company that's been advertised, I don't even think that they would support the idea that their ad is being overplayed at someone in such a torturous way. I'm absolutely not going near that company because I blame them for it. Whereas that's bad for their company, because Google is just pushing that bloody ad at people because they've got nothing better to offer at the time. That's not that company's fault. who want to get their product across. But it's got me sitting there going, I hate that company because, and they've put effort into making this ad, and it's just getting chucked at people left, right, and bloody centre.
I do see that going on TikTok. That's the one I use that I'm not paying for, and sure enough, every 6 videos there will be an advert, and invariably, on any given day, it'll be the same bloomin' advert, which is really tedious. Fortunately, with TikTok, you can just very, very quickly swipe it away. But you said this is very few of them are skippable, didn't you?
Yeah. How much is it? Do you know how much it costs for TikTok, or is there a premium or model that you can subscribe to?
No, I don't. But while you're, oh blimey, it's going to make a right old noise now. Stand by. While you're talking, I'll look it up and see what they're offering.
All right, okay. Well, the other thing is that ways of blocking ads are fairly plentiful. There's certain things like using Brave or whatever, and various different extensions and VPNs and ad guards and things like that, pie holes and those sorts of things can circumvent advertising on YouTube. But it has been pointed out that what's his name? I've lost it now. Jeff Gearling, over on YouTube, who's a very good YouTuber who does some really cool home builds and home lab stuff. One of his videos in particular was removed from YouTube because it showed how to get around YouTube ads. And Linus from Linus Tech Tips, or Linus, you know who Linus is. He was talking about it in his podcast recently about how some of these videos are being flagged as harmful content. Now Jeff's video is back on YouTube, but it's had part of it removed in order for Jeff to be able to carry on having that video available to the public. So Google are actively, or YouTube are actively pushing people away who are showing how to avoid advertising, which people should really have the right to be able to do, other than having to pay. If you don't want to look at a billboard, you don't have to look at a billboard. What do you think of that? Is it not right, or should YouTube be allowed to take videos off at their leisure if it's impacting on their financial model?
These are the kinds of reasons why we go back to the same thing sometimes on the show, which is, if you run a business, you should be able to do what you like, and nobody should be able to control you. And if people don't want to use your business or service or pay for it or watch adverts, then they don't have to use it and do something else. That's how capitalism works. You produce a product, and if people want to buy it, they buy it. However, because YouTube is so hugely ubiquitous, this is why Google ends up in court all the time, because it's monopolistic. And the EU, for example, are trying to strip out. They're trying to get Chrome sold off and blah blah blah. It's not because of anti-capitalism. It's to do with the fact that people haven't really got a choice, and YouTube and Chrome are baked into the establishment, and that's how it is. It's a dilemma, I think, for business.
Yeah, no, I do agree, but on the other side of that, I pay for YouTube Premium, and then obviously you have to sit through, whenever you're watching a video, you'll get the sponsored part where that person's been sponsored by it.
Don't start me on that.
But that's still an ad, and I'm paying for an ad-free experience. Yeah. So
absolutely,
if you Google
totally agree.
If some way of being able to detect this kind of content in YouTube videos, they should be doing the other side of it, where that segment is removed for those who are paying for YouTube Premium. And that's where their AI tactics or their algorithms should be should be scanning for that, and then those are only put in, or perhaps YouTubers will be forced to film that separately, a bit like they do with podcasts, and they can select where that gets installed.
Yeah, or they can put an advert up behind them. So there's a backdrop, there's something running behind them or an advert behind them, so that when they're sitting looking at the camera, the adverts are going on behind them, which is perfectly all right. And or you know, some YouTubers do the advertising really sympathetically, so that they will make sure that whatever it is that they're advertising is worked in really well with what they're talking about. Yeah. So they say, you know, by the way, if you want a good way of doing this, here's a way of doing it, and just very briefly mentioning something like that. But no, the general idea is that everyone stops it, and I agree with you. I think that if I am paying Google, then they have got surely in 2025, the world of AI, they have got the ability somewhere to automatically cut out people's self-generated videos in their streams. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm glad you agree with me on that. By the way, I've just checked out the TikTok thingy, and apparently they've been running some trials in America where it costs $5 a month to get adverts out of it, but it was a trial and a test, and it's gone away again now. The word is that you can't currently do this, but you can be resting assured that TikTok are working on that. And what's this? Go away.
Okay.
This is Gemini talking to me. Go away, Gemini. I didn't ask you anything. Clear off. And my phone's on Do Not Disturb. Shove off. So yeah, the word is from TikTok is that they are working on it, and it's probably going to come, but it isn't there yet.
Right. Okay. That's interesting, given how long they've been around and they haven't managed to get in a premium model just yet. They must just make too much off ads and fear that their probably youth-orientated audience won't be able to take out the premium subscriptions. So why bother? You know, it's extra work to have to implement.
Yeah. And if they do, everyone will do what they do on YouTube, which is what we just talked about, and they'll stick in their own adverts in the video anyway.
Yeah. And then there's also the point where I think it's still in court where it's being appealed that the likes of Apple can take 33% of the revenue or whatever because it's been hosted through the Apple Store. Isn't that what the Apple Epic thing is going on about, isn't it? I can't remember. There's that many of them going about.
Yeah, there's hundreds of these things going on all the time, isn't there? Yeah. And I think you're right. One of them is definitely about Play Store and Apple Store charges and what have you.
Yeah, and forcing people to have to use those stores so that Apple can charge for it. Yeah, it's Epic Games. They want to have their own store, but
yes, that's it. Yeah,
so that they can sell Fortnite stuff without having to pay Apple 30% of every.
And I think in the EU they can now. I think they won, didn't they?
They did, but it might be getting appealed or something like that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't been. I don't care. But yes, we should absolutely see Google doing something on YouTube for those who subscribe to premium and be able to block the ads. Yeah. Although in saying that, say someone like Colin Furze, a YouTuber that I will always give a thumbs up to because his stuff is good fun. He's building a tunnel under his house. He puts a lot of effort into his advertising whenever he has a special advert, and he'll go away and film a wee bit of him doing something stupid, talking about NordVPN or one of those types of things, just because they're giving him a bung and helping him with his project. So he, every bit of money you can see where it's going because his projects are so ambitious, and then he makes the effort to make that advert a quality product for you to watch, and you don't so much mind watching it because he's injected so much of his own personality and his way to advertise it. So you sit through it, which is fair enough, I pose, but there's other people who will do a 3-minute video, and 2 minutes of that video will be an advert, and that's disgusting.
Or you could stick it. The other way to do it is to stick it at the end, which Martin does in the Friday checkout. So you know that when he starts talking about his sponsor, that's it. There's no more content after that, so you can just stop watching then.
Yes, yeah, that's a good way to do it as well. Or the ones who stick it right in at the very start, so you can skip the first 30 seconds of the video, which I think is a bit cheeky, but I guess you know where it is, so you've got it over and done with.
Much better at the end.
Yeah, quite right. There you go. That's YouTube sorted. Once again, Tech Addicts delivers. All right. Well, the last thing we have to talk about, and I didn't actually mean for this to be at the end. I forgot to talk about it earlier in the news. Was our pal Slopes that we spoke to on the show in the last part of the season. Slopes came on and gave us a chin wag about his channel and all the things he does. I don't know if anyone noticed during the week, but there was a big issue that he got involved in, and it's raised some questions about Google and how Google deal with people. Now, I can understand why they did what they did, but the fact that they made it so difficult for Daniel to get in there and get it sorted was a bit unfair, because Joe down the road is not going to be able to do what Daniel did to be able to get his Google issues sorted out. So to put it into a nutshell, Daniel had he does his investigations into various things, and he talked about the INEO video that he did, which is his biggest video on YouTube, and how he investigated how that was a crock of shit and a cash grab. And he's been doing that again for another thing called the Super Sega, and he investigated that, and he was sort of building his evidence and things like that, and he went and he secretly infiltrated a WhatsApp group and grabbed all of the information out of a WhatsApp group regarding the Super Sega and how they were discussing things, and he uploaded it to his Google Drive. But as it turns out, within the transcript that he got from WhatsApp, there was a large amount of disgusting hate speech, and Google's search facility discovered that, searching through his Google Drive for particular information. Now, there was thousands of entries on this WhatsApp thing, so he hadn't really sort of read through it fully at the time. He just sort of grabbed it, dumped it into his Google Drive to review it at a later date, but Google already reviewed it, and they locked him out of his Google account. And it's his own personal account, which I'm sure he's learned a lesson there, in that, having backups of backups is a great idea, and I'm sure he's working on that now. But he lost access to his family's Google Photos and his Gmail, and ultimately his YouTube channel as well, and it was set for destruction, not until April of 2026. But he had to appeal this decision of something that he'd uploaded, whilst being locked out of all of his information. And Ted, you use your Gmail for all kinds of things. Being locked out of your Google account would be pretty devastating, especially if maybe you've got a holiday booked or something like that, and plane tickets that are in your Gmail and you can't get access to them. And if you've got family stuff all up there, videos and pictures, you're worried about whether or not you can get back into them, and you could lose them all if you didn't have a backup solution.
So, which I do have.
Yeah.
I have a daily Thunderbird backup going on, and all of my email is backed up. It takes a huge amount of space on my hard drive, but I think it's worth it in case something horrible like that happens. But you're right about the other services, like my Google Drive documents. Yeah, I've got individual monthly backups of what's in Google Drive. I haven't got backups of photographs, I don't think. Well, I not that there's anything of note in my photos anyway. What else did you say?
Well, it's just anything that's in your Google account, like your Gmail, basic emails. If you were to lose those,
That's in Thunderbird.
It is, yeah. But you've already been down that road where you've thought this out and you've
Yeah.
developed a backup
Yeah.
plan. A lot of people don't.
No.
And even talking to a girl in work the other day, she was having trouble. She thought her Hotmail account had got hacked, and she was really worried about it because all her messages were showing as red. And someone could have gone in there. They could have deleted everything out of it for her, and she would have had nothing left.
Yeah.
So, but she didn't have a backup of it, and it's like, well, you need to have a backup, and Daniel's learned that now. But where he was going back to Google to say, look, I need to get this sorted out, it took him to go public with a video which he was able to upload to YouTube through his through the Google or the YouTube Creator app, because he still had access to that, because he didn't have access to his AdSense either, and that's his basic income. But I'm sure he wasn't too worried about that. I think he's probably got enough money to be able to survive for a few months until he puts something else in place. But he was able to put out a plea, and some bigger YouTubers came in and helped them, and a few Google employees came in and helped him out and sorted that out for him because he put out a plea. But if that was you or me, we might not be able to do that. And if it's Joe down the road, he's not going to be able to do that easily and be able to get the traction that Daniel got to get things sorted out within a few days, and people would still be fighting. So it's a bit worrying that things can be totally cut off at a moment's notice, and you're expected just to deal with it. Take, for example, two-factor authentication. If it's set up to your phone and something happens to your phone, or something happens to your Google account and you can't sign into your phone, your two-factor authentication isn't maybe going to work. So you might not be able to get access to the email address or to the account that's connected to the two-factor authentication to be able to prove things. And I don't think that's all been taken into account whenever they actually cut someone off, and people could actually lose their whole digital footprint online because something's been flagged. And in Daniel's case, it wasn't his fault. It wasn't something that he'd said, but it was something that he just hadn't reviewed fully, and Google has held against him. It worries me. It's actually become a bit of a concern, and to ensure that you have backups all set up and ready to go.
It's going back to what I said before already about all your eggs in one basket, and this is why the EU are not happy with Google owning large parts, if not all parts of a person's digital life, like they do with me. I'm completely dependent on Google. Yes, I have got some backup stuff in place, but at the end of the day, they're a private company and they can do what they like. It reminds me of the whole Amazon thing as well. When I was returning too much stuff to Amazon, they were kind of threatening me with all sorts of things, one of which was closing my account. And when I looked into it, they said basically in the online forums where people had this happen to them, that there's no line of recourse to Amazon. If they shut your account, they will not even discuss it with you. There's no way in which you can even talk to them and try and appeal or anything. End of story. If they shut your account, it's gone forever. At least I guess Google in this situation, there was a way in for him, but as you say, it was only because probably he knew some famous people and people that had got a higher profile maybe to help him out. But yeah, it's a private company, and as I say, this is exactly what the monopolies and mergers stuff are all about, and why they're all getting cold feet about Google and Apple and Microsoft and everyone else that is just controlling everyone's life, I guess.
Yeah. It is genuinely worrying, and I think it's probably, dare I say it, to use them as the backup and keep your data yourself.
In a different account. Yeah, I've got that as well. A second Gmail account.
They're a backup to your bit of hardware. You have your, like I've got my NAS, which has the main copy of everything, and then Google and things like that are an afterthought.
Yes, yeah, which is a really good way of doing it as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the way it should be, that way around. I think a lot of people probably put their stuff in Google first and then have their backup outside of that. But then you realise if ever there's a problem that your backup maybe doesn't make much sense because you could be locked out of the Google account that can't keep you up to date with the most recent things. So self-hosting and keeping things on your own hardware is best first and foremost.
Yep, that's certainly a very sound argument.
Yes. There we go. There's a public statement. Yes, okay. Grand. All right. Well, let's move into the bargain basement where things are cheaper than they were normally. And I'll start this off by saying to anyone who is interested, we are covering a couple of products here that are in various sales, but if you're on Amazon or whatever today, you'll probably notice that UGreen and Anker do have quite a lot of things on sale just at the moment. And if you're planning on going away on holiday or something like that and picking up a few bits of technology to help you along the way, have a look at UGreen and Anker on Amazon. You might be able to get a better quality thing of what you're thinking of buying for a bit of a cheaper price. Excuse me, I'm hiccuping. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, it's me actually first in the list here. So I've thrown in the OnePlus Nord CE4 Lite. This is a 5G cell phone, mobile phone, which has 8 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage. It's a SIM-free smartphone, so it's all eSIM in there, with a 50 megapixel dual camera, and it comes in a rather nice shade of blue. It has been dropped in price from £217 to £179. That's got the Snapdragon 695 chipset inside of it, I believe, and a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which has the SuperVOOC 80-watt charging solution to it, and a 6.6 inch 120 hertz AMOLED display. Very nice, I think, for the money.
Stereo speakers, micro SD card slot, 2 years of OS updates and 3 years of security. There's actually a lot of phone there. You could nitpick. There's no wireless charging, but you could nitpick that. But actually, that for £217, that's a good deal.
179 quid, you mean?
Sorry, yeah, the normal price was $217. Yeah, $179.
It also has.
That's down in.
I noticed on the list. Sorry, I've just forgotten what it was as I interrupted you there. It's water resistant too. That's what it is. Yeah, it's got a
IP 5.4. Yeah, the specs are very much like Motorola, and they're pitching it in that place. I think the Snapdragon 695 is okay. It's fine. But it is like, a couple of years, 3 years old now. But yeah, even so, 179 bargain.
Yeah, and it looks nice too.
Unlike the £499 Samsung Galaxy S24 FE.
That's a great phone.
However, the 128 gigabyte 8 gig version comes with a free Samsung Galaxy Watch 7, which they say is worth 280 quid, plus £100 cashback, plus a really generous trade-in. You need to go into have a look at the trade-ins and put your device in there and see what you get. But if you've got a Samsung device, they're really good trade-in values. So even though that's £499 reduced from £649, if you were going to get a watch anyway, you get £100 back and a trade-in. You could get that for knocked down to next to nothing, couldn't you? And that's not just the S24 FE. That Samsung Galaxy thing is going on for quite a lot of those devices. So if you're after a Samsung, do have a look around. And also on the Samsung's own UK website, they're doing similar deals as well, not just Amazon.
Yeah, I noticed the Ultra had been knocked down in price a wee bit, and I was considering it, but talked myself out of it the other day. But you're not helping.
Yes.
Very good, yeah. Good sales on Samsung. Good spot, that, yeah. Next up is the Creative Pebble. We've talked about these before. I've got a funny feeling someone bought them somewhere along the lines. Maybe you, Ted? Did you?
I did, and they ended up with Steve Litchfield.
Oh, right, okay. And he's still using them?
He is, but he's currently got a problem with it because at 5 o'clock each morning, he gets somebody playing some music through it, and he can't work out why. But anyway, that's beside the point. Yes, we did have these.
Okay, Gremlin. Well, it'll be cheap enough for him to swap out for a new set because they have been reduced in price again from £23 down to £21, and then there's a 10% voucher which you can apply to that and get £2 and some pence off the top of it as well. So that'll break it down to like 18 quid or something like that. I don't know. I'm not an accountant. I don't pretend to be. These are the nice white ones. They're USB powered. Where they work on PC and laptop and Mac and all that kind of stuff. And they actually look like a nice little retro pair of speakers. Why did you pass them over to Steve? Were you just not using them? Or?
I was not using them, no. I had my Razer speakers and they were just sat doing nothing, and he needed some, so I said, you can have these. But to be fair, and before Steve pipes up and says so, the pair in question were the Pro versions, which are more like about 60 or 70 quid. They're not these non-Pro versions. But yeah, I mean, even so, for most people, these would just be perfect. And 20 quid plus 10% off, that's 18 quid, just to help you out there.
Would these be the amateur versions then?
Well, they're just not the Pro version. Yes, they haven't got as many features. My ones, for example, had RGB lighting around the base, and you a 3.5mm input for auxiliary stuff as well. These Pebble Creative Pebble speaker sets are all different, and there's quite a lot of different models. Yeah.
No, that just they look good, and the Creative usually perform pretty well. So for 20 quid, can't go wrong.
Unless you live in Reading, then they don't perform well at 5 a.m.
I think one of his neighbours is having a laugh.
Now, talking of Anker, as you were earlier, the Solix C200 and the C300 power stations are there, and they've been reduced accordingly, respectively, from 169 to 109 and 199 to 160. One of them's got 60,000 milliamp hours on board, the other one's got 90,000 milliamp hours on board. One of them has a total of 200 watts throughput charging, and the other 300 watts, but they've both got the 2 USB-A's, 3 USB-C's, and a solar option to charge the inbuilt battery as well. So yeah, these Anker Solix devices are really nice, and they're very often reduced in price, as they have been here, so worth having a look at those too.
Yeah, these things look fantastic. I wish I could have one. Especially with the wee pop-up light on one of them. Maybe it's on both of them.
There is. That one with the pop-up light's really nice. I quite fancy that.
Yeah. And there's a wee case you can get for it as well. Keep it all together and it looks nice.
Yeah.
I'd like one of those. Actually, I'm going through duty free soon. I'll see if there is one and I could pick one up, because the buggers won't ship them to me. Although I did get my Anker Soundcore headphones, the i41s. I've forgotten what they're called now. I don't have it in front of me.
Right.
The ones with the power bank in them. And they're really cool.
Oh, did they arrive?
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. I forgot all about that. Are they good?
They are, yes. They're sitting out in my car at the moment. And I've used them all week, and they're still showing at 100% on the battery. So I don't think the headbud or the earbuds have started to need to charge from the battery. If that
Oh,
makes
right.
sense.
Cool.
Maybe it's whenever it gets down to 50%.
It was 192 hours, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're comfy too.
Good.
Aye. Well, I think my last one here is the because I'm going away. I've been looking at for charging solutions because I like to buy a new charger each year to be able to plug stuff into. But I didn't actually buy this one because it's pink. There is a purple version of it, but it's a wee bit more expensive. This is the USB-C plug. It's a 40-watt, 4-port USB-C charger that takes 2 USB Type-Cs and 3 USB-As. The USB-As say 3.1 amps above it, and the Cs say power delivery 20 watts on both of them. And it's £7.64, down from £9. The purple one is down from £16 to £8.54. I don't see what the big difference is between them other than the shade. Maybe the pink ones are a little less attractive to the majority. But it looks like a good charging solution if you don't really care about what colour it is, and being able to take it with you and be able to plug in yours and other people's phones and laptops, and not laptops but tablets and things like that on the go, headphones and the like.
Hang on a minute. If you scroll down or up, there's a white one. You've got no excuse now.
Oh yeah.
40-watt, 4-port, £8.49. So yeah, it looks like it's the same thing, but it's in white.
It says different things on the side. It doesn't have that logo on the side, so
okay.
it might not be Aeonius, Aioneus.
Okay.
No, it is
Fair
the
enough.
same.
Oh, right.
They just have different logos on the side. Right, okay, fair enough.
Okay. So you can get a white one.
Yeah, it'll work for you going away on holiday. There you go.
Yeah, very nice. Okay, and the last one is back to Soundcore and the Motion Plus Bluetooth speaker, which I brought onto the show years ago. It's still being sold, and it's still a really good price, £65 from 110. It goes up and down. It's got 30-watt output on it and 12-hour playback time, IPX7, so water but not dust. And I've had 2 of these here for such a long time. And last night, inspired by seeing this deal, I went and charged them up and fired them up, and they're just fantastic. For the money involved, I got 2, and they're twinned up to be stereo, and it works really well. And they've got an extra bass thing going on, and if you want to use it, and the volume is so loud. Really, really impressive. They're called the Motion Plus, and they also work with the app as well, the Equalizer app that is for phones. So even though they're like 5 years old now, but at the time they were ahead of the game with making sure that they were usable with the app and all that. So yeah, very, very much recommended.
Yeah, they're nice. I know you've been talking about them for years. You entertain the ladies. You've got them either side of the bed, don't you?
Yes, indeed.
All right.
Oh,
well, that about brings us to the end. If you want to get in touch with us, you can by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk. I'm on Twitter and X, but yes, I'm still deliberating turning that off. But currently you can find at techaddictsuk and then at Gareth Miles, MYLES. I'm also on Mastodon and Blue Sky, and I have my garethmiles.com if you want to find out any more about me. Ted, where can they find you?
TedSalmon.com is the easiest way, unless you hang out in MeWe, which is where I hang out most of the time. I've also got Mastodon and Blue Sky. I do pop in and out there occasionally. And yeah, that's a bit about it, really. All of our other audio podcasts and our MeWe groups are linked out from TedSalmon.com. And if you want to buy me a coffee, I'd be really grateful. It's at paypal.me/TedSalmon.
All right, unless you've got anything other to add, we can go back to our lives.
I do not.
Grand.
So we'll see everyone next time. No, they'll hear us next time.
Yes. I'm off to build a computer. All right, take care now. Bye.
Bye.